Good morning and welcome back to Other Worlds Wednesday here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to be taking a look at Blackmoor Foundations from the Fellowship of the Thing. Now, if you aren't familiar with who they are, they produced the documentary about the early days of role-playing Secrets of Blackmoor. Now, I first found that documentary 2 or 3 years ago, and I fell in love with it. Me personally, I don't have a huge history with Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, the first time that I was ever able to actually play the game was during 3rd edition. So I wasn't there in the early days. I didn't grow up playing the game and knowing who all of these original players and the original history, or at least what was known of it at the time. I didn't know any of that. And so finding Secrets of Blackmoor, I absolutely fell in love with it. I love the documentary. I recommend it to pretty much everyone. In fact, I'll even have a link down in the description so that you can check that out. But to me, just the love and the care for the subject that the producers put into it literally blew me away. And while it is presented as, the history of Dave Arneson's contributions, it ended up being about a lot more people that were involved in those early days of tabletop role-playing games. So, before we get into Blackmoor Foundations, do make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I try to put out a few videos each week, do live streams, collaborate with some of my friends in the YouTube space, and I'd love for you to come along and see what they have, or see what me and them, in fact, have to share. In addition, there will be affiliate links down below to DriveThruRPG, Amazon, where you can pick all of these up. Or to the Fellowship of the Thing, where you can actually get Blackmoor Foundations itself. So, with that all said, let's flip over and take a look at the book. Now, full disclosure, Griff Morgan did send me this proof copy in order to do this review. He's been very kind and generous to me in the past. Just in his time, friendship, talking. And so I was very grateful to receive this. I do hope that won't color my opinion of what's contained in the book. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew that, so that, you could take my bias into account. Now, this particular book was... In my opinion, I'm not going to bury the lead. To me, this is a sequel to the movie. The movie, as I said, ended up focusing on a lot of the early players of tabletop role-playing games as David Arneson was developing his Blackmoor campaign setting. And so the movie ended up not focusing on him very much at all. Whereas what I found as I was reading through this book is that it does focus a lot more on what Dave Arneson did. Now, it's presented in a relatively simple format. Just, I'm going to kind of equate it to like an old school role-playing book. But it very much delves into the history. It does make some guesses where information is not known, but I do actually really appreciate how Griff states as much. He says, I don't know. I think this is where it would fall into the timeline. I think this might be what's happening, during this time period, but he doesn't, but he still approaches it with just a lot of love and a lot of caring. Now, one of the best parts is there are literal scans of original documents, whether it's, just, like a text page like this, or some of the early maps that were designed by Dave Arneson or other people in his group. It also goes into just the evolution of the map. We start with kind of this. Actually, that's not even the earliest one. So we have this original, very simple drawing of Blackmoor, and then eventually goes in to this map that was based on a board game called Outdoor Survival. So there's tons and tons of information. Now, some of the pages essentially are you're going to have an image and then you're just going to have a description of the image. So it's not as much presented as like a historical textbook, more along the lines of like what you would find in, say, a museum, like a museum guidebook. Hey, here are the artifacts that we have in our museum, and here is a description about those particular artifacts. And just the attention to detail, everything that was put into the book is fantastic. These are documents from the original players. They in many cases have been sitting around for, at this point, decades. Most of the time periods estimate early 1970s, so we're looking at over 50 years of this history being kind of hidden from us. Now, some of the original documents, I have not read through all of those. I do still need to go through and finish reading those. But I did make sure to read all of the text that was provided by Griff, because sometimes that's how you go through a museum. You can see the item, but you're going to be a little bit more focused on the little descriptor plate or the story that they're telling you about those items in the display. So regardless, this is absolutely fantastic. I am so grateful that I got a chance to read through this, because while I don't have that that old history of role-playing games to fall back on, this is just a fun bit of it's just a fun bit of history. Especially it's something that I've thought a little bit more about recently, because it's a very American piece of history. Yes, role playing has spread the world over, but at the early days when these things were all brand new, when they really didn't know what they were getting into because it hadn't been done before, and to see how it's presented and how it evolved was an absolute treat. I highly recommend that that you pick this up if you are interested in the history of role playing games, especially considering that this is the official 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, and some of the things that I've heard about the history books that are coming out about that, I'm disappointed in. Pages that were left out, images that were left out, when other companies had full access to all sorts of documentation, and they just skimmed. Now, this book, it is I don't even want to call it small. It's not trying to expand on the last 50 years. It's not trying to document the original published edition. It literally is taking these old maps, these old artifacts that were used in developing this hobby, and I highly recommend that if you are interested that you pick it up. They do sell it on their website. Like I said, I will have it linked down below, and it does retail for $39.95. Now, it is currently on pre-order. I'm not exactly sure when the release is going to be. I did catch that there's a few still editing tweaks being made to it, but it should be going to press very, very soon. But regardless, the Fellowship of the Thing has published The Lost Dungeons of Tonisberg, the Secrets of Blackmoor documentary. So, they're going to put the material out. You don't have to worry about that if you're going to put in a pre-order. But honestly, I'm grateful that I got a chance to read it. I'm probably going to end up getting my own copy of the official book, not just the uncorrected proof. But I highly recommend that you check it out yourself. So I appreciate your time. If you enjoyed the video, do please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you next time.